The 90th minute, Toronto Stadium, Canada. Portugal 2, Croatia 1, and the board goes up. 15 minutes of stoppage time, more added on top. Portugal already ahead, already dreaming of the round of 16. Comfortable, or as comfortable as a knockout game against Croatia ever gets. And then Croatia doesn't stop. A corner, a scramble, a header that loops up and drops in. Josko Gvardiol wheels away. The Croatian end erupts. Beer cans, water bottles, flares in the upper deck, 40,000 voices convinced they've just saved their captain's career. Except they haven't. The flag goes up. The review starts. And somewhere in that review, 2 World Cups end at the same time. One continues, one doesn't. And neither Cristiano Ronaldo nor Luka Modric gets to choose which is which. This isn't just about a football match anymore. It's about 2 of the greatest careers the sport has ever produced, colliding in the same stadium on the same night, and only one of them walking out with more games left to play. Portugal and Croatia had never met at a World Cup before this. That alone made the draw unusual. 2 European football nations with decades of history between them, and 0 shared history on this specific stage. Portugal's case is built on one name and one generation. Cristiano Ronaldo, 6 World Cups, a scoring record that will likely never be touched, and, going into this tournament, a strange hole in his resume. 0 goals and 0 assists in World Cup knockout football. Not for lack of trying, for lack of the moment landing right. Around him, Portugal have assembled arguably their deepest squad since the golden generation. Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Ruben Dias, João Cancelo, all playing, in theory, to send their captain out with the trophy his career has always been missing. Croatia's case is built on resilience, not star power. 2 penalty shootouts got them to the 2018 final. 2 more got them to the semifinal in 2022. They have made a habit, for the better part of a decade, of grinding out knockout football through midfield control and sheer bloody-mindedness, rather than talent alone, even though the talent, led by Luka Modric, has rarely been in short supply. Modric, at 40 years old, was still running Croatia's midfield like the calendar didn't apply to him. This tournament, everyone quietly understood, was almost certainly his last World Cup. Nobody said the word farewell out loud. Everybody was thinking it. Neither team arrived at Toronto in dominant form. Portugal finished second in Group K, behind Colombia, a group stage that swung from a 5-0 blowout to a flat, goalless struggle against the Colombians, with a draw wedged in between. 1 win, 2 draws. Ronaldo scored twice against Uzbekistan and declared, "I'm back," and then went quiet again in the 2 games that followed. Croatia weren't much sharper. They conceded 4 goals to England in their opening match, a defensive performance that raised real questions about whether this aging, midfield-first Croatia side could survive a knockout draw against a team with genuine pace out wide. They tightened up after that, won twice, and finished second in Group L. Enough to get here, but not enough to erase the doubt. And that doubt mattered, because whoever won this game would go on to face the winner of Spain versus Austria in the round of 16. And everyone inside both camps knew that whichever of these 2 proud, era-defining teams lost tonight wasn't just losing a match. They were losing the last realistic chance for their aging talisman to add another chapter. Here's the detail that should stop you cold. This game had no tournament history to lean on, no rivalry script to follow. Both sides walked in blind, which meant whatever happened in Toronto would define the entire relationship between these 2 footballing nations, going forward, based on 90, or, as it turned out, well over 100 minutes. Kickoff. Portugal in their 4-2-3-1, built to control the half spaces. Croatia in their usual compact shape, daring Portugal to break them down. The first half is a stalemate, physical, cagey. Ruben Dias picking up a yellow card in the 17th minute for a foul that tells you everything about how tightly wound this game already is. Then, the 53rd minute. Croatia break Portugal's defensive transition, and Ivan Perišić, another veteran playing like the years haven't touched him, finishes. Croatia 1, Portugal 0. And suddenly Ronaldo's 6th World Cup is one mistake away from ending in a group of 32. Portugal manager Roberto Martínez doesn't wait. In the 61st and 62nd minutes, he tears up his own starting 11. Vitinha, Pedro Neto, Bruno Fernandes, and right back João Cancelo all come off. Bernardo Silva, Francisco Conceição, Nelson Semedo, and striker Gonçalo Ramos come on. It's not a tweak, it's a rebuild, live, with the World Cup on the line. And it works almost immediately. Conceição stretches Croatia's low block horizontally. Ramos gives Portugal a real body in the box, which frees Ronaldo to drift into space behind him, instead of standing on the last line waiting for service. Croatia crack under the new shape. Nikola Vlasic brings down Renato Veiga in the box, and Ronaldo goes to the spot in the 68th minute. He doesn't blink. 1-1. Think about what that means. A 41-year-old in his 6th World Cup, with 0 prior knockout stage goals to his name, scores the equalizer that keeps his entire tournament alive, from the penalty spot, in front of a stadium split almost evenly between 2 anthems. Then, in the 81st minute, Martínez does something almost nobody expected. He takes Ronaldo himself off, replacing his captain with defensive midfielder Ruben Neves to shore up the center of the pitch for the closing stretch. It's a defensive, unsentimental decision. Stabilize first, chase the winner later if it comes. It comes. 4th minute of stoppage time. Gonçalo Ramos, the same substitute who reshaped the game an hour earlier, meets a cross and heads it past Dominic Livakovic. Portugal 2, Croatia 1. The bench empties. And then Croatia, refusing to accept it's over, throw everything forward and win a corner that turns into Gvardiol's disallowed header. 10+ minutes of review, bottles and flares raining onto the pitch, and a fan in a Ronaldo jersey sprinting onto the field before security tackles him to the turf. Modric's story here isn't really about tonight. It's about 12 years of being the best midfielder most casual fans still underrate. 2 finals reached through shootouts. A Ballon d'Or won in a year Ronaldo and Messi were both still playing at their peak, which tells you everything about how good he had to be to take it. At 40, he was still Croatia's heartbeat, still the players Latko Dalic leaned on hardest through every group game, to the point where workload management for one 90-minute knockout match became a genuine tactical concern going in. Ronaldo's story is the mirror image, not a farewell tour that everyone expected to end quietly, but a career actively refusing to end on schedule. 6 World Cups, a goal in this one, and, for one night, one specific hole in his resume, no knockout goals, ever, before tonight, closed by a penalty he had to convert or watch his tournament die. Both men were on the same pitch, both playing to keep their own World Cup story alive, and only one equation could balance. That's what made the final whistle land the way it did. Not just 2 teams shaking hands, but Ronaldo and Modric sharing what witnesses described as a genuinely heartfelt moment after the whistle. 2 players who understood exactly what the other had just lost. Inside the stadium, the reaction split cleanly down national lines. Portuguese fans and players mobbed Ronaldo after the final whistle, not for scoring the winner, which he didn't, but simply for still having a World Cup left to play. Croatian fans did the opposite. Beer cans and water bottles came down onto the pitch in the closing minutes, aimed at the officials rather than the players, and a red flare went off in the upper deck as the review dragged past 10 minutes. The irony nobody on the Croatian side wanted to sit with. Their team had scored, celebrated, and had it taken away by the exact same measurement-based offside technology that earlier in this same tournament had done identical things to Brazil, Colombia, and Iran. Croatia's outrage was real. It was also, statistically, nothing new. And that's when this stops being about one match in Toronto. Start small. One team, furious about one call. That's Iran, back in the group stage, when Shoja Khalilzadeh's stoppage-time strike against Egypt was ruled out for an offside margin so fine it required a manual check on top of the automated system. A goal that would have sent Iran into the knockouts for the first time. Escalate. One federation, formally on the record. Brazil's Vinicius Jr. had a goal against Scotland wiped out over a soft foul call in the build-up. Brazil won the game anyway, 3-0, and it still wasn't enough to let it go. CBF President Samir Jad wrote directly to FIFA afterward, asking for what he called consistent application of VAR intervention standards. And now pull in the third party, the one that universalizes the whole thing, Colombia. In the group stage, Davinson Sanchez thought he'd scored a stoppage-time winner over Portugal, the same Portugal now standing in Toronto, only for the linesman's flag to rule it out for an offside margin of a single toe. Individual heartbreak, institutional complaint, a rival federation with the exact same grievance, 3 separate teams, 3 separate matches, one identical storyline. Score, celebrate, Watch it get taken away by a margin too small for the human eye to have ever caught in real time. Here's the detail that should stop you cold. Semi-automated offside technology exists for one reason, and one reason only: to remove doubt. To end the era of linesman guessing, of goals wrongly chalked off by human error, of the game bending on a bad angle from 30 yards away. And instead, in tournament after tournament, match after match, it has become the single biggest source of doubt the sport has. Built to fix the uncertainty of offside calls, it has instead produced a version of football where a goal is never truly a goal until a machine finishes measuring a millimeter that no player, no referee, and no fan in the stadium could ever have seen with their own eyes. Croatia's disallowed equalizer in Toronto wasn't a mistake. By every account, it was the technology working exactly as designed. That's precisely the problem. Working as designed still means a stadium full of people celebrating a goal that was never going to count for over 10 minutes before anyone found out. And Toronto isn't happening in isolation. Zoom out across this entire World Cup, and the pattern keeps repeating in stranger and stranger forms. In Switzerland's win over Qatar, a penalty was awarded off the back of a VAR review, except a technical outage meant the semi-automated 3D offside graphic never even made it to broadcast, leaving fans to argue over a call that the system itself couldn't fully explain in public. Ghana were denied a penalty against England in Boston after a lunging challenge in the box went unreviewed, prompting their manager to say, bluntly, that VAR had gone for a coffee, a reminder that fouls, unlike offside lines, are still judgment calls the video system mostly declines to touch. And Iran's national team found itself at the center of a completely different kind of controversy earlier in the group stage, when goal celebrations were read by parts of the football world as political statements, proof that this tournament's flashpoints haven't only been about lines on a screen. 3 unrelated federations, 3 unrelated storylines, 1 tournament, generating controversy after controversy, with barely a week between each new one. This matters more than a normal round of 32 result, because of exactly who was standing on that pitch when the review light came on. FIFA needs Ronaldo in this tournament. Every broadcaster, every sponsor, every neutral fan tuning in for one more chapter of the Ronaldo story needs his World Cup to keep going a little longer. And for 10+ minutes in Toronto, that continuation hung on a Croatian header that the system needed to measure down to the millimeter before anyone could exhale. Modric's story, meanwhile, closes here, not because he played badly, not because Croatia deserved to lose, but because the margins in knockout football have gotten so thin that even a legend playing at 40 the way he played at 25 isn't enough anymore. 2 icons, 2 different endings, decided by a matter of centimeters and a review clock that felt like it would never stop. So here's the question worth sitting with. If a call this close needs 10+ minutes and a stadium full of thrown bottles before anyone knows the result, and if Brazil, Colombia, and Iran have all been through some version of the exact same thing already, what chance does any team have of trusting this system by the time the final rolls around? Was Toronto a fair result decided correctly, or a football match that got decided by a machine nobody in that stadium could actually see working? Drop your verdict in the comments. Correct call, or a sport slowly outsourcing its biggest moments to a monitor? And if you want the stories behind the score lines, not just what happened on the pitch, but why it happened and what it's doing to the sport underneath it, subscribe. We're not just covering the matches, we're covering everything the matches are turning into.